though it looks like an old, worn-down police box that's in desperate need of a paint job, the TARDIS is one of the most technologically advanced pieces of kit in the Doctor Who universe. It's bigger on the inside, it can travel in time and space, it's full of organic material. It contains a maze-like web of corridors and rooms, and to top it all off, it's a little bit sentient. Basically, TARDISes have feelings. So unless you want to be flung into the endless void of space, do try not to piss them off. Considering the complicated inner workings of the TARDIS and the fact that they're incredibly rare machines pretty much exclusive to the planet Gallifrey, very few individuals in the show are capable of flying one, making these characters some of the most fascinating and unique figures in Doctor Who lore. For the purposes of this list, characters who might have fiddled with the controls from time to time, or characters who can only fly the TARDIS with the Doctor's help won't count. We're looking for the characters who can successfully fly the TARDIS from A to B all by themselves. With that in mind, I'm Ellie with Who Culture, and this is every character who can fly the TARDIS. Number 7. River Song. From her very first appearance in Silence in the Library, it was made abundantly clear that River Song was no ordinary acquaintance of the Doctor's. It was heavily implied that the two had a deep personal connection, and this is something that was explored slowly over the next several years of the show. Along the way, we learned her true identity, we found out how she got her sonic screwdriver, and we were shown that she is more than capable of piloting the TARDIS with no input required from the Doctor himself. In fact, River seems to know more about the TARDIS than the Doctor does. In Series 5's The Time of Angels, she shows him how to release the brakes before landing, which to his immense disappointment means that the ship no longer makes its famous wheezing noise. As for how River learned to fly the TARDIS in the first place, well, that's a little bit complicated. In the Series 5 finale, she tells the Doctor that he taught her, but in Series 6 Let's Kill Hitler, she claims that the TARDIS itself showed her the ropes, which does make a lot of sense considering she was conceived in a TARDIS bedroom. So maybe it's a bit of both. The TARDIS taught her the basics when she desperately needed them, and the Doctor taught her some advanced training further down the line. Number 6. Leela. When it comes to piloting the TARDIS, Leela's level of skill is quite unusual. She has plenty of courage and spirit, sure, but because she hails from a primitive human tribe, she isn't exactly the most intelligent of companions, so you'd think it would be impossible for her to even comprehend this complex time-travelling machine, and yet she seems to be able to fly it quite well. At the end of her introductory serial, The Face of Evil, she rushes into the TARDIS and meddles with the controls, resulting in the ship dematerializing. While we don't see what happens immediately after this, the fact that the universe didn't implode means that she must have started it up safely. So was this luck or instinct? This aside, a slightly more clear-cut example of Leela flying the TARDIS occurs in The Invisible Enemy, when the Doctor goes into a self-induced coma and she says we'll take the TARDIS to get help, and brings the Doctor back to the ship. The scene then cuts to a medical facility with the TARDIS neatly parked in the background, and with the Doctor out of action, it's implied that Leela is the one that parked it there. Leela is a very curious individual. It was her that asked the Doctor if she could explore the universe with him, so it would make sense if she was interested in learning the controls of the TARDIS. Based on the results, it would also seem that she's a very fast learner. Number 5. Heather. Heather is a strange character who we first met in Series 10. While she certainly looks like an ordinary human, there's actually a powerful alien creature lurking beneath the surface, one that often manifests itself as sentient liquid. So maybe strange was a bit of an understatement. After appearing throughout the first episode of the series and forging a connection with Bill Potts, Heather returns in the finale, rescuing a dying 12th Doctor and a cyber-converted Bill, and taking them to the safety of the TARDIS. Here, Heather is shown commanding the ship quite comfortably, designating herself as the pilot and claiming that she can fly anything. Given the somewhat abstract nature of her character, combined with her limited screen time, the full extent of her abilities isn't totally clear. But the fact that she can fly the TARDIS quite effortlessly, and without any training that we know of, it's clear that Heather is a creature of immense power. Number 4. Adrik. Even though he's not the most beloved companion in the show, Adrik is one of the smartest characters in Doctor Who history. He's something of a genius when it comes to mathematics, earning the rank of mathematical elite on his home planet of Alzarius. He put his expertise to good use throughout his time with the Doctor, once claiming that he had calculated the coordinates to allow the TARDIS to enter E-space, a journey that the Doctor himself had considered to be far too difficult to make. With Adrik's brainpower in mind, it's not terribly surprising that he knows how to pilot the TARDIS, something that we do see him do a couple of different times without the assistance of the Doctor. For instance, in episode 4 of Logopolis, he successfully lands the TARDIS on Earth. And in the following serial Castrovalva, he demonstrates that he can dematerialize off Earth. Granted, he is under the influence of the Master in the second example, but it's clear that his TARDIS flying skills are genuinely something he possesses. Number 3. Tasha Lem. Like River's song, Tasha Lem clearly has a close personal connection with the Doctor, but in this case that connection has yet to be explored. Leader of a religious group called the Church, in Eleven's swan song episode The Time of the Doctor, Tasha's interactions with the Doctor, flirting, kissing, bickering like an old married couple, hint to a juicy backstory that we never got to see. Indeed, there are countless questions surrounding Tasha and her history, and the fact that she can fly the TARDIS only adds to that air of mystery. In one scene towards the end of the episode, we see Tasha riding solo in the TARDIS, picking up Clara Oswald so that she can return to Trenzalore and say goodbye to the Doctor before he regenerates. Interestingly, Tasha states that flying the TARDIS is easy. It's flying the Doctor that she never quite got the hang of, and there's definitely an innuendo in there somewhere. We haven't seen Tasha Lem since the episode aired, and despite her small amount of screen time, her TARDIS piloting skills rank her as one of the most unique characters in Doctor Who history. Number 2. Clara Oswald. The main thrust of Clara's arc with the 12th Doctor was her desire to become more Doctor-like. In Flatline, she took the Doctor's place when he was unavailable to lead the adventure, and by the end of her story, she had started taking some big, highly dangerous risks. Risks that she thought the Doctor would also take. While this particular aspect of her development was completely misguided, the Doctor does take risks, sure, but rarely stupid ones. Clara was indeed a lot like the Doctor in many ways. She was brave and genuinely wanted to help other people. She was curious and found great joy in exploring the universe. But most relevant to this list, she was a skilled TARDIS pilot. While she didn't get along with the Doctor's TARDIS at first, she ultimately earned its respect, to the extent where she was able to close the doors with a snap of her fingers, an ability that very few people are able to possess. With the 11th Doctor, Clara started taking lessons on how to fly the TARDIS correctly, and with the 12th Doctor, she began using advanced TARDIS functions, like the telepathic circuits, more frequently. By the end of her arc in Hellbent, Clara had grown into a confident TARDIS operator, and was able to fly the vessel without the assistance of the Doctor. She even had her own funky TARDIS, which resembled an American diner, and set off to explore the universe without any hesitation, like an excited teenager who'd just brought their first car. Number 1. The Doctor and Other Time Lords. Though the Doctor has a special place in their hearts for the companions they travel with, these companions always come and go. But the Doctor and the TARDIS? That's a connection that will never go away. What's noteworthy about the Doctor's relationship with the TARDIS is how the two always seem to be in sync with each other. We know that the TARDIS is sentient, and in The Doctor's Wife we learn that the ship is capable of taking the Doctor wherever they need to go without any piloting required. With this in mind then, perhaps the Doctor and maybe anyone else on this list doesn't actually require any piloting skills at all. Perhaps the buttons and knobs are just a placebo to make the pilot think that they're in control, when it's actually the TARDIS doing all the work. But whether or not that's true, the Doctor can frequently be seen strutting around the central console, flicking switches and pressing buttons with all the confidence in the world. So the character must believe that some level of input is required to pilot the TARDIS. If not all the time, then some of the time at least. This also extends to other Gallifreyan and Time Lords. Because TARDISes are such an integral part of Time Lord culture, pretty much anyone who's a part of the species will be capable of flying the TARDIS. But if the TARDIS Olympics ever took place, our money would be on the Doctor to take home the gold medal. Probably by crashing over the finish line, but first place is first place. And that is every character who can fly the TARDIS. If you can think of any other characters who weren't mentioned in this list, then comment them below, and while you're there, subscribe to the channel and tap that notification bell. I've been Ellie with Who Culture, And in the words of River Song herself, goodbye, sweeties.